Hi, the General Studies Paper 2 is also out, and today we are analyzing General Studies Paper 2. This will actually help aspirant understand question patterns, expectations from UPSC, and scoring strategies for this examination. In today's session, I will go question by question breakdown and with the insight to elevate your answer writing and maximize your score. Now, people who have given this attempt would find it, a kind of a recollection of what they could have done and what all practices or gaps. They can watch the session and in the comments share their opinion about their observation and how close my analysis has been to the exam scenario. My reason over here is not to demean or show anything which is like during the exam there will be something in mind, and while in the while you are sitting right now, you can actually think of many things and think of a better answer. But the purpose over here is to figure out a way in which we can reproduce or recall or enrich the answer to the relevant demand of the question during the exam time or exam condition. So this question today we have around 20 questions in the paper, and I'll just run through the paper, and I'll give you a little bit of trend comparison of what it has been in GS paper 2 since 2020 and the kind of shift it has happened. And the way I look forward is actually I break down the question into the demand analysis, then the standard approach of intro, body, and conclusion, and then little bit of source mapping that why it has come, from where you would have read it, the knowledge, and what kind of element they are looking within you as an answer writer, especially with respect to the examination for the job of civil servant. What is the kind of expectation? And then what can be done for the people who are going to appear at it in the next year if similar question or similar pattern is studied. So I would also uh, you know held I mean I'll try that you when you see or look at it you also learn the same skill, so that you don't feel that there's some answer book or it is nothing like that. It is more of observational skill and understanding the framework, like why should it come. Anyway, I'll just run through the paper before we move on. So in front of me I have the GS paper 2. It starts with the representation of people act, a question on that. Then there is a question on administrative tribunal. Then there is comparison of president's power in India and the US. And then the with the J&K, it's kind of current also, we can say. What is the nature of its assembly now? And then there is a role of attorney general in India being asked what is the importance, responsibilities. Then comes sixth question on women's social capital complements in advancing empowerment and gender equality. Then e-governance project and backend integration using user-centric designs. Then comes question on civil society organization observed as anti-state actors and non-state actors. What is your opinion? Then comes India-Africa digital partnership. It was in news. Then comes with the waning of globalization, post Cold War is becoming a site of soaring nationalism. Elucidate the international scenario today. Then comes the 250 words question or 15 markers on constitutional morality and Supreme Court judgments, judicial accountability. Then comes Indian Constitution, amending power. Then comes collegium system of Supreme Court, of judges of Supreme Court. Then central state financial relation as per plan development and impact of the physical fiscal federalism. Then what are environmental pressure groups? 15th number question. And then inequality in ownership pattern of resource is one major cause for poverty. These kind of then in contemporary development models critically evaluate. Then National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Digital era. Then energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin. Yeah, integrate India's energy security with India's foreign policy. The reform process in 20th question is United Nations remains unresolved. Imbalance between East and West, and energy entitlement of USA versus Russo-Chinese alliance. Now this is the picture of United Nations. So we have this test paper with us, and I must say the first and foremost observation is that whatever is the syllabus functionality mentioned in the syllabus word, it has come as it is. Like areas are being stricter to the related to what syllabus is mentioned in the polity and constitution structure, function, separation of power, judicial review, constitutional bodies, tribunals, federalism, amendments. These are part of syllabus, and that is what is there in the question also. In social justice, vulnerable sections, NCP, CR, child rights, poverty, inequality, welfare scheme, and in governance, e-governance, transparency, citizen charters, etc. And international relationship, the India and neighborhood, Middle East, energy, India, Africa, UN reforms, globalization, and nationalism. So all these are covered so like it is kind of a repeat hotspot in this exam. There have been questions in this before also, and it kind of also mixes two perspective together to ask you like that. So what I feel as per the trend is that if you have done last 10 years question, if you would have gone with the last 10 years question in practice, it would have definitely empowered you to write a little better, and especially in the condition in which the question comes. And paper one was a little tougher, and so paper two seems little relaxing, better. Anyway, now focus on each question wise. See, the kind of template I mentioned, how I go for it is to understand the demand and keyword of the question. Then a standard approach of introduction, body, and how we do that. Although I do realize 10 markers is 7 minutes, and 15 marker is 11 minutes. Then subject and source mapping, like where could have they come from, current relevance, like where this has come, reading skills, reading and skills, specific reading and testing skill, and what is the wow element, like the high score, what adding or would have make your answer stand out. This is completely perspective wise. Let's go ahead. The first question here talks about corrupt practices under Representation of People Act 1951, and it talks the major word. If you see here, it says analyze, and then Unknown income would constitute undue influence and a corrupt practice. The directive words are discuss and analyze, and you have to see in which area they're talking. Corrupt practices in RPA 1951, disproportionate assets, and undue influence. So you can actually start with what Election Commission talks about in that 123 section of RPA 1951. Then you can define what is corrupt practices, categorize the corrupt practices as the example, you know, then what is the link between it, and then judicial interpretation as per SC's judgment. And conclude with electoral reforms and need and this that. So RPI is there in polity, and there's a detailed chapter about it in Laxmikanth also. And if you can, while preparing, you would have also talking about election commission. You would have prepared some notes of guidelines what ECI does. Now, with why this would have come in the question paper is the disproportionate assets of politician being held in coming in news and things like that. And if you could remember actually the specific data as per Representation of People Act, that would have added a much more wow factor. And some good example, like which also everybody recalls, okay, I also read this news about this person found in Odisha or that person found in Tamil Nadu, like that. So that would make this answer a little better. Coming to the next question, administrative criminals versus court system. And here it's a very straightforward question where it says comment on the need of tribunals in the court and then assess the impact in the tribunal. So you have to see first that what it is and then how it is impacting. So you see why, if, like the pendency of court case and what is the number of how court is burdened. You first try to write that sentence, highlight the problem, and then body wise you mention about the need for tribunal specialized and how faster justice and the various reforms it has undertaken in London itself, the impact assessment that how many of after the court actually go ahead, move for appeal, and what is their challenges, independence, and infrastructure. Conclusion is balance between efficiency and justice plus reform. Pretty dry, but yes, if you remember the tribunal chapter, it will be impactful because it's a 10 mark question. You can immediately run through it. And next comes the comparative question, where is presidential pardon powers and of India versus USA. So here you have to again focus on conceptual clarity of clemency powers in constitutional democracies, and you have to see that which article of India, which article of US provides this provision. Article 72 in India, Article 2 in of US. Balance between executive discretion and constitutional principles. Then, this is a question which usually one practices because it is directly in the syllabus about powers of, democracy, comparing democracies. And if you can cite some examples, both the side, then it will be more impactful. Uh, there used to be a Justice Frank. Now he passed away just 2 3 days back. He was very popular in the internet also about the way he used to provide justice in US. So like that. Okay, now I would like to go again with the presidential power. Pardon power. This is a part of the syllabus and it is very clearly mentioned. This is one syllabus one you would have already prepared. And here the key words are already spoken. Compare karna hai to contrast the president's power to pardon in India versus USA. And then any limits to it, both the countries, and what are the preemptive pardons. So see the break of questions and answers have to be given. You have to write whatever they are asking directly. So in intro, best is what is this clemency power or constitutional democracies they provide? What is the concept behind it? Then on the body, you can put a comparison table also and write USA and India like this and put it over there. Then in conclude between it, what is how democracies react or respond to it. So this is basically, maybe due to the high-profile mercy petition cases which right now happened in the U.S. presidential transition, ardent controversies they came in news, and maybe that's why this question came over here. So, however, this is a basic kind of a question where few information bulletin you have to be published, so you add it on that. So if you remember well, then you can add on various type of pardon, commutation, remission, respite, reprieve, 5 rounds of presidential pardon in India and all that to enrich your answers. But I know this won't itna easily to aata nahi hai. Coming to the next question, discuss the nature of J&K Legislative Assembly after the J&K Reorganization Act 2019. And now you have to, this is, you have to, today's condition you have to tell and briefly describe the power and functions of the assembly at the UT of JN. Now, you have to see what the change brought in through intro with that why this happened, the change, abrogation of Article 370, and what when it became to UT, what is the kind of composition, what is the power now limited, what is the legislative jurisdiction, what are the special provision, whatever you remember, you can categorize it to this and include in your body. And then how as a UT it has been performing recent election. And so if you can actually take a reference of another UT like Pondicherry and in comparison talk about it, it might help to stay aligned to the parameters. And I know it is for students who are from J&K, they would definitely write it in a better way than any other parts of the country because the information is limited to in a national manner. But you can still, for as it is for 10 marks, it is for 10 marks. A good answer can be fetch you 3 marks to 4 marks. Next question is e-governance projects have built a built-in bias towards technology and back-end integration rather than user-centric design. Examine. So here the question is he's saying that the technology and back-end integration is more it become a bias rather than user-centric, like as a first user or customer. So, firstly, you have to talk about the what is e-governance coming from, where it is coming from, and what is its utility. So, vision, digital India, and all that you have to speak. Firstly, then what are the other things where the digital India has shown, and the consequence of digital divide, low adoption has been impactful, and what are the other countries where things have come up well, or maybe if India is doing it, what is the rate of adoption? So, what kind of other requirement is there for being successful in digital various schemes? Like this Umang app, number of users using it, and standard service. This Odin, now what is that? That uh, one-time network, that and integration of various digital governance element. So that can be in record management, all that e-governance budgets that have been running. Next question is role of Attorney General. Again, it's a very standard pull-out question answer. And here it says there's a sentence firstly, and then discuss his responsibility, rights, and limitation in this regard. So which article provides this, and then the responsibilities by whom and what he does, and what is his rights, then the limitations. So if you remember any name of any of the notable attorney generals, you can put that, and that will be cheese on the top. So what I'm trying to tell you is I'm trying to give you ideas for answer. I'm not answering for you because it's not necessary everything will you'll recall like that. But yes, while studying, you know that these are the pointers I have to keep it in my 100-word notes. Next question is women's social capital and empowerment. Women's social capital complementing and advancing empowerment and gender equity. Explain. So firstly, the it is talking about to explain. Explain what the relation between these two. Women's social capital and complements empowerment and gender equity. So what is the social capital women make firstly? The network, the trust, the norms, various SSGs, the loan, returning the loan and how this small medium loan works very well, and then crediting, access to credit, skill, entrepreneurship, and representation, participation, leadership. So how do we institutionalize that? And the Seva or Kudambasri success story works out a better thing than women empowerment indicators in India, how it has been. And if you can provide any of these small successful example, maybe the Jat Papad has been very old, but other like in Shark Tank coming and creating those umpire of achars and all that thing, which you see in current days, that would also add value to it. Next question is about civil society organization as non-state actors. Now, civil society organization is often perceived as now this is also direct from syllabus. Direct, it is a part of syllabus, and you have to have pointers for it. So the question here is the do you agree and justify kind of asks for opinion open-ended. So you have to see when you give in any opinion, it has to be much close. You have to provide data, example on why we are giving this and all that thing. So you have to define what is civil society organization and their role in democracy, then why, for what reason it sometimes goes against state or considered as anti-state, then the reality of it, then contextual factors, then FCRA and the donation, other part which has been in the news for so long now, and global perspectives. So, what should be the balanced view, especially for a democracy like a country like India? Then you can also talk a little bit about you know current dates, how important it is, especially for a vibrant society like India, where many every section has to be represented. Now, coming to the next question, India Africa digital partnership. Now, sorry for this small fonts. So here it is a direct question, direct from news. So, what all area of cooperation has been signed? Digital network, UPI, that is DFO, last mile connectivity, digital public investor knowledge sharing of UPI, Aadhaar model, capacity building and knowledge transfer, iTech, eWeb, eVidya Bharati, IT Center Excellence, training program for African officials and professionals, digital economy and entrepreneurship, India Africa Entrepreneurship Forum, this joint ventures between Indian and African tech companies, startup exchange program, mobile payments and system, institution framework, India Africa Forum Summit, digital initiatives agreement with African Union on digital cooperation, bilateral MOUs on cybersecurity and digital governance, and joint working group in technology transfer. So this has been in news, and if you can remember, then it will be great. Whatever you remember, you call India Africa relationship. This is a very smart question which says Question number 10. With the waning of globalization post Cold War, war is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Elucidate. Again, this has been in news. So, with example, you have to say what is happening at post Cold War and where is keeping the global picture, the resurgence of nationalism or nationalist. So evidence of globalization, retreat, trade wars, protectionism, tariff, all these things, what's happening right now. Rise of rationalist politic movement of globally, all Italian government or wherever all the right wing government formation of power. Factors driving sovereign nationalism is economic inequalities from globalization, migration concern and cultural anxieties, technological disruption and job insecurity, pandemic induced supply chain vulnerabilities, manifestations in international relations and geopolitics. The position of India, how things have changed, all that you can talk about it in the last 25, 30 years of post globalization. Now comes the next part of the paper where 15 marker, you have 12 minutes to answer. Constitutional morality and judicial independence and accountability. Constitutional morality is the fulcrum which acts as an essential check upon the high functionaries and citizens alike. In view of this observation of the Supreme Court, explain the concept of constitutional morality and its application to ensure balance between judicial independence and judicial accountability. We have to explain, it is asking keywords: constitutional morality, fulcrum, check, balance, judicial independence, judicial accountability. We have to provide what, first to define it, and then what SC has observed in which case. So Navtej Zohar versus Sabrimala case, that you have to remember, recall. So in body, you talk about morality of constitution, then judicial independence, then judicial accountability mechanisms and challenges. What are the conflict points or tension points, and rule of constitutional morality. Conclusion is constitutional morality as guiding principle for institutional utility. So here, quoting Ambedkar ji or showing this independence and accountancy model will be a very good enricher. Now coming to question number 12, and again sorry for small fonts. The question is about the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution has conferred the amending power on the ordinary legislation with the procedural hurdles. In view of the statement, examine the procedural and substantive limitation on the amending power of the Parliament to change the Constitution. It is talking about the limitation on the amending power. To which article shows that we have flexible constitution, Article 368. What are the procedural? See, these are the conditions on which these things act. You have to remember it. I'm not writing, reading it out. And what are the limitations? What should not change, or it will get squashed in the Supreme Court, even if the bill is formed. So balancing and flexibility and rigidity. So this is the for this. This is a very standard question which has come, and I feel everybody should be able to write it. Collegium system. Next question is discuss the evolution. The collegium system in India officially examine the advantages and disadvantages of the system upon judges in Supreme Court of India and that of USA. So whatever you remember of collegium system, you throw it out because yeah, although I have arranged it over here, even I can say that it is very hard to recall all of them. But yes, if you have read through it and you are aware about the pointers, dateline, do the evaluation and write it over there, and then put a comparative table of how parameter and India and US how it runs, which can be done here. So once you've done this, next is center state financial relations in India. Now, This is very, very important in daily day-to-day preparation also. And the most of the time, we are asked about these questions. You talk about the three era of how things have happened: pre-liberalization era, then planning commission time, the 91 to 2015 time, and then with Niti Aayog coming replacing what I told you, like that. And then you impact what has happened. You know, I know you might have your own concerns about GST and various opinion, but because we got to show the question in a very, not heavy opinionated. It is not just asking your heavy opinion; it is asking you to with some proof of concept. So you can see that even if you have GST and all that thing is said good, there is a challenge in which we say that GST is still a concern. Increase and the surcharge and things like that, special category status. So you can talk about this. Next question, it is one of the first time type of a question. Environmental pressure groups, and it is discussed their role in raising awareness, influencing policies, and advocating environmental protection in India. EPG. So you have to first explain what they are and what is the discuss about them, and what how they have come into picture, and that, and emergence, historical emergence. Then what role they play in awareness, research, and all social media activism. Then policy influence, where all they have influence and what all they have influence, and then few case study which we have for us standard. So that way, then comes the next question: resource inequality and poverty paradox. So this is a very intelligent way wording question. Inequality in the ownership pattern of resources is one of the major causes of poverty. Discuss in the context of the paradox of poverty. So you first understand what is this words: inequality, ownership pattern, resource, cause of poverty, and paradox of poverty. Define it. What is abundance? What is scarcity? Then you talk about the ownership of resources, capital, education, national resource, natural resource, then linking inequality to poverty. Now, the way it has come into picture is access, the unequal bargaining power, and all that thing, disadvantages system due to the historical background, which creates a lot of inequality and ends up in poverty. That you have to do. Here, social justice and political plus poverty plus development economic survey. These will be the sources where you get the definite content. Next question is decentralization, decision making in development. The contemporary models, decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of information and execution, defeating the object of development. Now, it is the same thing as sitting at Delhi and giving a solution that for Telangana. That is the kind of challenges. So, when it comes to this absence of considering the local realities, so what is the challenges that happen if you don't see the local realities? Then you have to give the consequences. Then you give a very example where decentralized model has worked in favor for the particular state or the resource, and then what can be the bridge between these two. And again, the next question is about NCPCR and digital era child protection. This is a standard question coming from a standard body of the country, and so here it is straightforwardly asking in today's era of digital era, and then examine the existing policy and suggest measures. So you have to talk about online safety, privacy concern, digital addiction, digital divide, existing policy, what all is there, and recommended measures are these something. Wherever the if you don't have a logical uh, argument to why not it should be included, include it. Otherwise. Next comes on the second last question is about energy security constitutes the dominating kingpin of India's foreign policy and is linked with India's overarching influence in Middle Eastern countries. How would you integrate energy security with India's foreign policy trajectories? Obviously, this energy diplomacy is going on, and we have been relating to the lot of news these days. So here, in what is happening in Middle East is hydrocarbon diplomacy, and green energy cooperation is happening again with Middle East. Infrastructure and connectivity wise, Jabbar Airport in Iran, Chahbar Port in Iran, and the International Energy Corridor and pipeline that we are speaking about. Then the regional security frameworks, then various strategic diversification and all that, especially in this zone of. So that's with energy security, and if you have any more data on that, you can put as per the news. The last question is the reform process in United Nations remain unresolved because of the delicate imbalance of East and West and entanglement of USA versus Russia China alliance. Examine and critically evaluate the East-West policy. And this is a very historical sense of you need to be aware about things in this. Why the United Nations have lost its kind of standing Security Council. So you talk about what happens in security councils, the decision-making process, the financial contribution, the institutional ineffectiveness or effectiveness, then East-West political confrontation, critical evaluation, and India's position on that. You conclude like that. It's a 20 marker. It is a 20 marker question. So section wise you can do, and that way in another 11 minutes you should be able to write around 200 plus question, a rewarded answer. So with this, we come to the point assessing that I did find the overall difficulty wise. It is the paper is difficult. It is longer. It is actually adding many topics which were not touched before, and thus immediate recall factor will be not there. Averagely, it is difficult than the last year. Yes, it is dynamic in content, especially those areas which is not in news also. So they are also very high. Multidimensional, the question itself are answering themselves that they need integration or they need that. They need the what kind of perspective. So it is not just about having idea of the topic, but knowing the history, the background, and everything around it. So okay, now this is something little uh, debatable, but still, I found that the polity had three questions, uh, and greater focus on international relationship, four question versus two question in 2024. Emergence of technology governance intersection, two questions, and continued importance of the constitutional morality from last year question. Now, when we how we are going to prepare, see for upcoming exam, you see the kind of questions they are making. They want you to have a good amount of data analysis to quote when you talk of something. You have to prove that why you think like this. So that's why summaries of constitutional articles, polity case, tribunal, federal updates, GST council and decision, governance and tech में human centric device to समझना है. Study success failure of digital services and all whatever happening in this. Social justice data, NHFS survey, economic survey. Economic survey is very, very important. Higher real politic and energy, so international relation and all that. India's evolving Middle East strategy. You need to run through your mind through this, making note. Huh? What I would consider that, yes, obviously the standard static foundations are constitutional provisions, various committee report, why they came in news, institutional frameworks and theoretical concept as a base of every answer. Annual reports cover it. current affair to make it very relevant. Then various SC judgment and especially empowerment data and all. Here you can, data visualization and diagrammatic representation also comes in IR and things like you want to say geopolitical area and things like that. So this needs to be created pre-handed, like while preparing only. So I think this is what is my core way of preparation. And if you can take a capture of this, you will realize that it will also help you while you prepare for your answer writing. Uh, so I do also welcome for people to practice answer writing and evaluation with me. So that is separate, but today we went through the GS2 analysis. And if you have any question, any thought further you want to discuss in for, you can schedule your call. All the details are there in the session. And I would rather prefer dropping an answer and submitting over WhatsApp to me so that we have more context, because your way of looking at question and representing your knowledge might just be a little more different than what I am looking at. I am talking from the experience of how simplicity and straightforward UPSC answers are meant to be rather than making it more complex. With this, thank you for watching by. And if I've been the momentum has not been great, then please do let me know in the feedback as well. And either way, if it's good, then how it has contributed to your knowledge and how you are able to learn through the session. Okay, with all that, people who have the prelims mains for this year more, 3 papers more, all the best to them. People who are preparing because they want to be in the flow chain. Uh, so I would rather I'll tell you to submit your answers so that we can have an evaluation. With this, thank you for watching. All the best.